Captain Marvel, Avengers Endgame, Spider-Man Homecoming. What do all of those movies have in common, besides the fact that they're all Marvel movies? We all know that. Well, amongst fans, they are all pretty controversial in the aspect of if they're good movies and if fans should appreciate them. One that should be added to that list is Captain America Civil War. It's got a lot going for it, but it also has a lot not going for it. And I believe it is the worst Marvel movie. Now, let's talk about the reach real quick. Marvel reaches a lot of people. Most people know about Marvel, even if they don't know the movies, haven't seen the movies. I guarantee most people can name at least 5 Marvel characters just from hearing about it. I mean, if you know the names of the movies, there you go. But they make a lot of money, it's no secret. But Forbes.com did a list of all 7 days of all 23 movies, their grosses in the first 7 days. I added them up, and that comes up to about $4,132,900,000, and that's just the first 7 days of each movie. I mean, obviously they make more money from streaming, and they're in theaters more longer, and just people buying the movies. So they're definitely making more than the $4 billion than just those first 7 days. Captain America Civil War grossed about $223.3 million in their first week. And that's about 19 to 20% of the grosses from that list, which is a lot. A lot of people saw this movie. And I do think there are good parts to it, but there's also a lot of flaws, and a lot of flaws that continue through from the movies that came after. But I believe that Captain America Civil War is the worst Marvel movie. Now, I think Captain America Civil War was a great introduction to bringing Spider-Man into the MCU and bringing Black Panther in, while also giving Ant-Man and Scarlet Witch some more screen time because we had just seen them in some previous movies. And they've easily become many loved characters. But, and it wouldn't be the same without them, but there's just so many flaws that the characters add a lot to it. But what are these issues? Now, we start with the Sokovia Accords, the main idea of the movie. The Sokovia Accords, what really are they? It's kind of a lot to go into, but I do have a clip that shows Secretary Ross talking to the Avengers about the Sokovia Accords. So we're going to take a look at that. Play here. So now that we have seen that clip, what are they really? Just to give it a little bit more of an explanation, they're pretty much saying that the Avengers either have to be working for / under the government to continue being Avengers, or they retire or basically become illegal. They can get in a lot of trouble if they go against the government, obviously. Okay, great idea. But they never really explain how it works. Like, we have this big idea that, oh, they're going to get arrested, oh, they're going to get in trouble. But how? Doesn't really come across right. It's easy to see that, like, Iron Man agrees with the Accords and Captain America doesn't, so we clearly know which side they're on. But it's never really explained how they would the government would regulate the Avengers. I mean, they say you'd work under a union, the United Nations, and if and when the government approves, they can fight. But what if it's, like, world-threatening, which we'll get into a little bit later? Secretary Ross also talks about the recent battles that they've had and how they have taken no consequences for their actions and how messed up and ruined they've left these cities. They don't care. There's really no consequences that come from it, even though he's talking all about consequences that you have to take. Which, again, we'll watch a clip in a minute. So, it does not stay that way. The Accords say that the Avengers on the Accords will fight under the government, and if and when the government allows it. So why in Avengers Infinity War does Iron Man, the leader of the Accords side, not take this in at all? Just look at what happens in Avengers Infinity War. In the beginning, like the first few minutes, play clip. So we see that obviously there's a world threat. Thanos is sidekicks are there and ready to take on the world. Now, Doctor Strange was not at the Accords, so we don't know what side he's on. So maybe he could get into the gray area. Hulk wasn't either, but Hulk didn't even show up, so it doesn't really even matter. So Iron Man took it into his own shoes to take care of this. Great, I agree. But he doesn't think for a second what could happen if he does this. I mean, he could get in a lot of trouble because he didn't listen to the government. The government didn't know. They didn't tell him if he should engage. So that might just be a continuity error, but it continues for the whole Infinity War and Endgame as well. I mean, we've got Iron Man not listening, and then we have Captain America and Black Widow coming out of hiding without worry that they're going to get in trouble. And in Endgame, basically Natasha and Captain America are running the whole thing. So clearly no consequences were taken, even if they were working to save the world. But still, Secretary Ross said that you can still avenge, but you're going to get in trouble for it. So it just doesn't really all add up. There's an interview on TheVerge.com with Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely, the writers of Captain America Civil War, and also helping with the other movies. They were asked a question, why didn't they really set up to Thanos? And they responded with a very good idea. Now, Stephen McFeely said, the Civil War story is about this group breaking up on their own accord, and they do not need to be helped from the guy from space. Okay, agree, great. Christopher Marcus also continued with, we also wanted Civil War to be a very kind of the boots on the grounded movie that set the stage for Infinity War, that sets all the Avengers apart from each other and at their weakest point. Which we do see, they do split up in the end of the movie, and they're still split up in Infinity War. But if they're really wanting to set up for Infinity War, that continuity from Civil War where, again, the Accords and having consequences, it doesn't carry over. It's not mentioned, it's not talked about, there's no worry at all. So if it's setting up for Infinity War, you think they would want a continuous stream of making sense. And that brings us back to talk of the clip that we watched. It set us up for the first few scenes of the movie, and Tony disregarded it all. Captain America disregarded it all. And he just fought for it not that long ago. I mean, Civil War is basically another Avengers movie, so they basically just fought for it and disregarded it in the same months. So there are many very different ways to view Captain America Civil War. From a great battle to a confusing continuity issue, or maybe you just like the politics of it. Great. It does have its great points too. I really like seeing all the characters, Spider-Man, Black Panther, getting more Ant-Man and Scarlet Witch. It's great that they get more time, especially with all the new shows coming up and the Spider-Man reboot continuing. But it's hard to overlook what is being said about the movie and what it was supposed to be. I mean, the writers talked about what it was supposed to do for Infinity War, which I believe it failed at. And just think about how much gross Marvel makes in that first week of all their movies. That's over $4 billion just in the first week of those movies. For how much money those movies make in the first week alone, you would think that they can explain their points and plots a little bit more and make sure that it stays consistent through all their movies and have everyone on the same page. Thank you.